Hello everyone, in this video, we will learn together the less known facts of ancient Egypt. The Great Pyramids have a constant temperature of 20 degrees Celsius. This is definitely one of the most interesting facts about ancient Egypt. They discovered a technique of cooling a place and keeping the temperature at a constant level. More or less as we do with modern air conditioners. The climate in Egypt is hot and sunny year-round. But even though the temperature outside might reach more than 40 degrees Celsius in the summer, the Great Pyramids still have an inside temperature of 20 degrees Celsius. Ancient Egyptians loved board games. After a long day's work along the Nile River, Egyptians often relaxed by playing board games. Several different games were played, including me, hen and dogs and jackals, but perhaps the most popular was a game of chance known as Senet. This pastime dates back as far as 3500s BC and was played on a long board painted with 30 squares. Each player had a set of pieces that were moved along the board according to rolls of dice or the throwing sticks. Historians still debate Senet's exact rules, but there is little doubt of the game's popularity. Paintings depict Queen Nefertari playing Senet, and pharaohs like Tutankhamun even had game boards buried with them in their tombs. They believed in many gods. In fact, more than 1,000 gods and goddesses were worshipped by the ancient Egyptians. Ra, Osiris, Isis, Set, Horus, and Anubis are some of the most famous Egyptian gods. The pyramids were not built by slaves. The life of a pyramid builder certainly wasn't easy. Skeletons of workers commonly show signs of arthritis and other ailments, but evidence suggests that the massive tombs were built not by slaves but by paid laborers. These ancient construction workers were a mix of skilled artisans and temporary hands, and some appear to have taken great pride in their craft. Graffiti found near the monuments suggests they often assigned humorous names to their crews like the drunkards of Menkaure or the friends of Khufu. The idea that slaves built the pyramids at the crack of a whip was first conjured by the Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC, but most historians now dismiss it as myth. While the ancient Egyptians were certainly not averse to keeping slaves, they appear to have mostly used them as field hands and domestic servants. The Eye of Horus. This ancient Egyptian symbol is still being used today, and it was a symbol of protection, royal power, and good health. Horus was the sky god and was usually depicted with a falcon head. There were two forms of writing in ancient Egypt, hieroglyphs and hieratic writing. Hieroglyphs were often used for decorative display on monuments, tombs. Hieratic script was used from the 1st dynasty until about 200 BCE. Hieratic script is a cursive form of writing. Priests used hieratic writing in the transcription of religious texts for more than several centuries. Egyptian women had a wide range of rights and freedoms. While they may have been publicly and socially viewed as inferior to men, Egyptian women enjoyed a great deal of legal and financial independence. They could buy and sell property, serve on juries, make wills and even enter into legal contracts. Egyptian women did not typically work outside the home, but those who did usually received equal pay for doing the same jobs as men. Unlike the women of ancient Greece, who were effectively owned by their husbands, Egyptian women also had the right to divorce and remarry. Egyptian couples were even known to negotiate an ancient prenuptial agreement. These contracts listed all the property and wealth the woman had brought into the marriage, and guaranteed that she would be compensated for it in the event of a divorce. Marrying relatives was quite uncommon. This wasn't unique to the ancient Egyptians. In fact, many civilizations have had traditions of marrying relatives in order to keep the bloodline intact. It was believed that the pharaohs were mediators between the gods and the regular world. Egyptians also believed that the god Osiris married his sister Isis to keep their bloodline pure. Egyptians kept many animals as pets. The Egyptians saw animals as incarnations of the gods and were one of the first civilizations to keep household pets. Egyptians were particularly fond of cats, which were associated with the goddess Bastet, but they also had a reverence for hawks, ibises, dogs, lions and baboons. Many of these animals held a special place in the Egyptian home, and they were often mummified and buried with their owners after they died. Other creatures were specially trained to work as helper animals. Egyptian police officers, for example, were known to use dogs and even trained monkeys to assist them when out on patrol. Egyptians of both sexes wore makeup. Vanity is as old as civilization, and the ancient Egyptians were no exception. Both men and women were known to wear copious amounts of makeup, which they believed gave them the protection of the gods Horus and Ra. These cosmetics were made by grinding ores like malachite and galena into a substance called kohl. It was then liberally applied around the eyes with utensils made out of wood, bone and ivory. Women would also stain their cheeks with red paint and use henna to color their hands and fingernails, and both sexes wore perfumes made from oil, myrrh and cinnamon. The Egyptians believed their makeup had magical healing powers. And they weren't entirely wrong. Research has shown that the lead-based cosmetics worn along the Nile actually helped stave off eye infections. King Tut may have been killed by a hippopotamus. Surprisingly little is known about the life of the boy pharaoh Tutankhamun, but some historians believe they know how he died. Scans of the young king's body show that he was embalmed without his heart or his chest wall. This drastic departure from traditional Egyptian burial practice suggests that he may have suffered a horrific injury prior to his death. According to a handful of Egyptologists, one of the most likely causes for this wound would have been a bite from a hippopotamus. Evidence indicates that the Egyptians hunted the beasts for sport, and statues found in King Tut's tomb even depict him in the act of throwing a harpoon. If the boy pharaoh was indeed fond of stalking dangerous game, then his death might have been the result of a hunt gone wrong. Some Egyptian doctors had specialized fields of study. An ancient physician was usually a jack of all trades, but evidence shows that Egyptian doctors sometimes focused on healing only one part of the human body. This early form of medical specialization was first noted in 450 BC by the traveler and historian Herodotus. Discussing Egyptian medicine, he wrote, "Each physician is a healer of one disease and no more. Some of the eye, some of the teeth, some of what pertains to the belly." These specialists even had specific names. Dentists were known as doctors of the tooth, while the term for proctologists literally translates to shepherd of the anus. Bread and beer used as currency. The workers who built the pyramids and tombs and the soldiers were all paid with bread and beer in return for their services. It was also a transaction used in businesses and as offerings to gods and their dead ancestors. Invented the pregnancy test. The first pregnancy tests were recorded in the ancient era of Egypt. Women used barley and wheat seeds to determine their pregnancy and also the gender of the baby. They would urinate on the seeds, and if they sprouted, it would mean she is pregnant. If the seed sprouted was barley, it would be a baby girl, and if it sprouted wheat, it would be a baby boy. Canopic jars to preserve internal organs. Canopic jars were 4 types of vessels used to store and preserve the deceased's internal organs, except for the heart, during the mummification process. These were later buried with them. Each jar contained different essential organs: lungs, stomach, liver and intestines. The heart was believed to be the home of one's soul, so it remained in their chests. Egyptian blue was founded in ancient Egypt. Egyptian blue is the world's oldest synthetic pigment founded by the ancient Egyptians. They used this color to associate it with the sky and the Nile River. The mineral that gives the blue color is called lapis lazuli, and it is a rare and expensive naturally produced stone. Today, these are used as security inks or for biomedical. You can subscribe to our channel for the continuation our videos. Thanks for your time.